Hello and welcome to The Entrepreneurial Musician. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and this is a TEM short entitled, Are You Fungible? Hopefully Not. And I must admit, first of all, that I did not know what the word fungible meant before my last guest, Ron Davis, brilliant lawyer, former French professor, and current jazz pianist and just an incredibly influential member of the Toronto music and art scene in general. He threw this lawyerly term at me, and I know it's not that unheard of, but I didn't know what fungible meant, so luckily he defined it for me on the podcast. But fungible means able to replace or be replaced by another identical item, mutually interchangeable. And the example that he used is a nail, that if you're using a nail to hammer into a board and that you drop it, then you can reach into your bag of nails and you are going to have an identical nail that you are able to replace it with. And if his point was, and this was probably my single favorite point, his was one of those interviews, it was very hard for me to choose which point I wanted to emphasize in the TEM short because there were about a dozen of them that I could have. But his point was that if you are fungible within the music business, or really any business, but he was, of course, talking about music, you are in trouble. If you simply are a violinist and can play Paganini really well, that's going to get you some places. But that's a dangerous game to play when that is all that you have to offer. And he talked about how he's kind of crafted his career around not being fungible, and about how, and that kind of led to some of his collaborations and things along those lines, whereas I believe the example he used was you need to be able to just do something more than play a really good version of A Night in Tunisia within a jazz combo as a pianist. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of a race to the bottom in terms of pricing and things like that. Seth Godin touches on this topic in a number of his books. Linchpin, which is a life-changing book that I would recommend absolutely everyone read. I recommend everyone read all of his books, which is probably getting annoying, but hey, there you go. But he talks about how moving forward that the way to get employed and to stay employable is to, and this absolutely goes for the music business, which Seth Godin, to my knowledge, has not spent 5 minutes as a member of. But that if you're, if what you have to offer is a commodity, such as a brass quintet who plays the same arrangements everyone else does, then there's going to be a little bit of a race to the bottom in terms of if there are, I used to live in a city, which I don't anymore, and this was not Boston either, but I used to live in a city where there was one group, one brass quintet that pretty much had cornered the market on all brass quintet work, and there were no other quintets in town, including any that I had been in, that did anything really that differently from them. There were just a few other straight ahead brass quintets. This was many years ago, and the group that had kind of cornered the market was I think you could say infamous for not paying very well. And this city didn't really pay that well, musicians in general, but they really did not pay very well. But they kind of got top players in town because there wasn't very much work. So and the point being that they always just offered their services for a little less than other people, or for the same amount, but had already established a relationship, a rapport with the people that were hiring. So if you just simply wanted to charge more so that you could actually earn a decent living, then no one was going to hire you if they could hire this other quintet doing a very similar thing. And in that case, those quintets in that scene were fungible. And so who do you go with? You go with the people who are cheaper and who you have worked with. And it's very important in the music business that you, especially it's more so with every day that passes, this is more important, that you need to be marketing and branding yourself. And if you have a group, then your group needs to have a voice. I know I always bring up Kronos Quartet. They're one of the best known examples of that. There was no one doing what Canadian Brass did before Canadian Brass started doing it. And so you didn't just hire them as a brass quintet. You hired them as Canadian Brass. You hired Kronos as Kronos Quartet. And so it's very important, and there are a number of soloists that are like that as well. and conductors, etc. So you need to ask yourself, and you need to put yourself in the shoes of the people that will be hiring you, whether it's a concert series, whether it's you want to be a professor, think along the lines of a dean, think along the lines of the people in charge of a hiring committee at a university. If you all you have, and I say that kind of with air quotes because this is a lot, if this is all you have, I don't mean this flippantly, but if all you have is 3 degrees from 3 really great schools with really good grades and good letters of recommendation, then every person who's going to be seriously considered for any of the jobs that you really, really, really want are going to either have 3 degrees or a ton of professional experience equivalency or whatever they call it. And no one's going to have straight C's through their doctorate. No one is going to, et cetera. So that's kind of that's the barrier of entry. And that's a term that I probably overuse, but it's a very important point to hammer home. And as such, you need to figure out what is my point of differentiation. What else do I do? How am I not fungible in their eyes? And not in your eyes, but in their eyes. In the concert presenter who is going to hire you or not hire you for their concert series. In the eyes of the hiring committee at the conservatory or the university or the college that you are interested in getting a job at, et cetera. And so that's something that you hear that I've heard every single one of the people interviewed for the entrepreneurial musician so far. Not a single one of them is even borderline fungible in any way at all. Everyone has made themselves irreplaceable in some way, shape, or form, and that's an incredibly useful. And that goes for I've interviewed composers, jazz pianists, classical soloists, motivational speakers, and all of these people all have very similar traits in the fact that they have things that make them stand out in the eyes of their customers, which means that when you hire Dr. Tim, you're not just hiring someone who does what he does, you're hiring Dr. Tim. There's a whole thing that goes into that, and he's a known commodity that does what he does. And now there are other people that do what he does, and none of them do it as well, and he was first. Which really helps. I guess I can throw out another book recommendation. It's called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, which I have given a talk based on that. I was just at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, last week giving a talk to a music entrepreneurship class on that very book. And there's the law of being first, and it's a quick read, and it's pretty cheap, and it's great. But Dr. Tim was first, and he now has been copied by many people, but he's already first in that space, and you only can create a space like that by not being fungible. So thank you, Ron, for introducing me. I'd heard it before, but I had no idea what the heck it meant. So thank you for introducing me to that very apropos word for what we are all trying to do here as a part of kind of making it, in quotes, in the music business today. And that will do it for this TEM short, and looking forward to the next episode. Thank you so much. You've been listening to The Entrepreneurial Musician with Andrew Hitz on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. You can sign up for my monthly newsletter and find my blog at andrewhitz.com. You can also find me at facebook.com/HitzTuba, and I'm at HitzTuba on Twitter. The Entrepreneurial Musician is produced by Austin Boyer and Buddy Deschler of the Fredericksburg Brass Institute. Executive producer is Andrew Hitz. The theme music was performed by Ben Barron, Rich Kelly, Daniel Lapel, and Andrew Hitz. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.